Passers-by have started to notice all the recent changes to our house, and honestly, it's kind of nice. For years this place has had all the charm of, well, an abandoned prison really, and 30 years of neglect have really left their mark. And our poor old French farmhouse has looked so neglected, you could really be forgiven for thinking this place was still unoccupied. But now the old crumbling render is gone, the walls are breathing again, and between the heat waves and these flash storms, we finally have a shot of bringing granite beauty back to life with some fresh lime mortar. We've been clearing walls and removing ugly fencing just so we can feel, well, borderline productive really. We've been looking for that perfect weather window, you know, blue skies, cool breeze, but really we're a little bit unprepared at the moment. The cement mixer, that's an abandoned disgrace. The hose pipe connectors, well, they'd vanished into a different dimension. The trowels, well, they were hiding in different rooms across the house, obviously. Now, the lime mortar, well, obviously that was out of stock and we had to buy a different brand. So, all in all, we're not starting off on the best foot, are we? Who knew getting ready to do a job was actually harder than doing the job itself? Because I actually find doing the job is actually quite relaxing.
I can't get the spider out.
The water's out of our well and we've barely got any water pressure at the moment because our lake is dry. Some of these cracks in the wall are deep as your forearm, and what we're going to do is force it in as deep as we can with trowels, and then basically keep poking with all our body weight. We have got one of these grouting guns, but basically the mix we're using is too thick. The sand is too gravelly and coarse for it to basically work, and we then have to use the trowels once we'd finished with the grouting gun to get a smoother finish, so kind of defeating the object of the grouting gun. So we're doing it all by hand. So yeah, we're pushing it in with the trowels quite deep, as you can see, basically as deep as the trowel itself, and doing it all by hand, the traditional method. We're doing the lower half of the wall from left to right, followed by the top half of the wall left to right, and the reason is the temperature is so up and down at the moment, and that's leaving the wall quite patchy with sort of white blotches, and the lime is being drawn to the surface in, well, sort of patches, and that's not ideal for us because that's going to take years and years to settle down. But the good news is, well, for us, not necessarily for the wasps. Here's the little hole next door to the lamp, and yeah, the wasps have decided slowly, oh, they're appearing for camera now, but they've slowly decided to disappear. There was a proper rugby scrum with 4 or 5 sort of trying to bundle in the hole at a time. Sort of, you were getting sort of close to 100 sort of at a time per minute, trying to clamber in this hole. Sort of proper winged rugby scrum, sort of trying to get in. But now, particularly when the temperature drops, it can be 15 minutes before you see a bee. So yeah, I think they are sort of either sheltering or they are slowly finding a new home. As mentioned in a previous video, a lot of farmhouses in this area have a little porthole window next door to the front door, or in our case we got one by the back door, and they're called a fisherman's eye or a witch's eye or something like that. We don't quite know the proper name, but we're going to put a little glass tile in our one. We think it might be a nice little feature, but at the moment it's like fitting a square peg in a round hole, because yeah, it's slightly too big, so it's going to take a bit of bashing to get this one to, you know, go in properly. There we go, one line rendered tunnel. We'll smooth the insides out and then put in the tiled front, something like that. There we go.
And if you would like to stand there for the next hour while it goes off, that would be lovely.
This here is the wasp hole, and we've managed to successfully mortar around it, and they didn't seem to bother us at all. Well, not too much, and that was quite a successful operation for the afternoon. The lime mortar is drying a little bit whiter than we hoped, but c'est la vie. We've been out to a brocante this morning, and it was one of the largest in the area, and it was absolutely cram-packed with stalls, hundreds of them, and we bought something quite special. I'm going to show you what it is if I unwrap it. It's another trowel. It's our missing trowel. It's the other matching one to what we got. It's the correct size, so we can both work in unison now. So yeah, it's absolutely perfect for what we need. So
we spoil ourselves.
We do spoil ourselves. It's probably an antique. We're just getting to the part of the wall now where it was the lizard's playground. There's quite a few small holes. Well, they look small, but they're quite deep. They go all the way through into the dining room, and the mortar, well, it's been drank up by the wall. So yeah, it's going to take quite a bit of plaster or mortar to fill these up. But it's not just the lizards go in here. The cluster flies go in here, the wasps go in here, the bees go in here, everything goes in here. And as you can see, there's another hole here, and Mandy's doing her best to fill up another hole over there. So it'll be really good if we can fill these up now, because it's not just this season where they get used, it's the winter, it's all seasons of the year. We're just filling the last of the remaining holes below the bathroom window, and the bats were using these as a bit of a thoroughfare into the bathroom at night, and they were basically not even slowing down. And the last thing you want to see as you're getting out into the shower is, well, a furry beast between your legs. So yeah, especially when it's got teeth. So yeah, that's not a good thing to see. So ever. Tapping down, also called brushing down by some lime mortarers. Now, it's to cure common problems such as moisture ingress, uneven surfaces, cracking, things like that. Now, you could use a paintbrush or a sponge. We stick to the traditional method. Now, I've got a stiff bristled brush with quite a long handle, and I find that really ideal because you can get quite a good swing, and that allows me to leave the wall quite a long time before tapping down. If I had a short handle, I'd probably have to, leave it quite a short amount of time and it'd be really hard on my old shoulders. The key to this stage is timing. If you start too early, the lime raises to the surface and forms this pasty layer, and it can become quite light as well, particularly if you're using white lime. Now it can also crack, it can also lead to moisture ingress and stuff like that, but it detaches away from the stones, and obviously that's bad. If you wait the correct amount of time, you get a feathered edge against the stones, which is obviously what you want. Now also you get, when you leave it the right amount of time, it cleans the face of the stones, so that saves you time at the wire brushing stage. So if you leave it the correct amount of time, you obviously have to hit quite hard, but as you hit quite hard, that flattens out the surface and flattens out all your troweling marks. It's a bit like a whacker plate when you're flattening gravel, if you ever used a giant whacker plate. So yeah, you get a really even texture across your surface, which you wouldn't get with a paintbrush. So yeah, weather conditions, they come into it. So if you had to break for lunch or whatever, changes in humidity and things like that during the drying process, like if a shadow come across your house or whatever, you know what I mean. So the longer you leave it, the better. But the more durable your finish is going to be, obviously. So but obviously, as I mentioned, you don't want to leave it too long. But mastering this stage is basically a work of art in itself, but it's one of the most rewarding stages of the process, because it really does bring out not just the colour in the lime mortar, but it brings out the colour in the stones, and basically it really does bring the house alive. We've come to the end of the day, and this lime mortar here is literally the scraps that we've scraped up off the floor, off the scaffold boards, off the gravel, off of everywhere, and we're going to shove it in to the wall at the bottom of our garden, and it's going to go into all the deep holes, and it's basically going to be lost from view. So we'll probably put a clean coat over the top of this when we finish, but what you see here is going to be lost from view. So don't worry if it's full of leaves and scraps like that, you won't see it. At the bottom of these two rather huge trees, the one on the right is an oak and the one on the left is a rather ancient ash tree, is a rather huge long dry stone wall. And at the left hand side of this dry stone wall should be the outlet to our rather, at the moment, dried up lake pond. And if I show you here, the riverbed is, well, completely dry, and that is rather unusual even at this time of year. And if I come down here, it goes into a little tunnel, and that little tunnel feeds all the way under our house down there, and then it will go underneath our dining room and underneath our kitchen, and finally come out somewhere down the road. So my task will be to remove all of this ivy, clear up all of this. I don't even see there's an awful lot of scrap metal. There's a metal bucket there, there's some electric fence posts there, and there's some plastic stuff there, and yeah, it's going to be quite a challenge to get this back all to the stone wall, get rid of all the brambles, because what happened when we cleared up another part of the garden was all the wildflowers just sprang up, and it was glorious really. This is the first trailer load of ivy coming off the wall, and as you can see, the ivy isn't insubstantial, it's quite well attached to the wall. It's been growing on there quite a while, and as you can see, we're finding some other interesting objects. An old child's race car, that's kind of cool, but yeah, I don't think we'll be saving that one. But there we go. As we come round here, you can see the size of the metal pile. There's some windows, there's an old wheel, a little child's tricycle, and there's bound to be some people out there who will tell me what these things are. They're probably off an old plough or something. There's a old lid to a old cooking pot, a grinding wheel, a bucket, some old tractor oil filters, plenty of razor wire, and yeah, there's an awful lot of scrap metal just coming out every couple of inches. There's some bands off of wooden wine barrels, cider barrels, and yeah, there's all sorts of junk in there, tin cans and oil cans and all sorts. Yeah, anything made of metal went in that hedge. The wall is looking a little bit clearer, but as you can see, yeah, I did have a little bit of a tumble as it sort of got cleared, and that was due to a huge ivy root going up the tree. Yeah, I had to vacate the area when that lot came down rather quickly, but there's still quite a patch of land to clear, because it goes all the way somewhere up there. And I did a little thing on an app on my phone, and there is 392 square meters of land to clear. Around our garden we got this rather ugly, what I call prison fencing. It was once designed to keep a dog out, and I've come out here with a trusty disc cutter to cut it down. But what I've discovered is it's rather rusty, and well, you can just pretty much tear it off like so. So yeah, it doesn't actually take much effort to get it down. So yeah, it's a lot less effort than I planned. So it's probably only going to take me 20 minutes or half hour to get this all down. The ones in the corner, they're quite a bit thicker, but as I've discovered, this is actually a breeze block wall, and the concrete inside the breeze blocks is deteriorated, and you can just pull them out. So yeah, it's actually a much easier job. The only thing you've got to worry about is probably tetanus. There we go, last defiant piece of prison yard fence. I try not to tread on all the herbs. I literally can't put into words what satisfaction this has given me. This is happiness. Ooh, this definitely is a happy moment. The prison yard fence is disappearing. That's the bottom half of the house lime mortared. We've still got the top half from left to right to do.
Can I just say, that looks amazing.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? We've left the witch's window still masked up, because obviously it'll get splattered when we do the top half.
Yeah.
I think it's called a witch's window rather than a fisherman's eye, because it's smaller. The fisherman's eye has normally got a sink below, and they're smaller, so witches can't fly through them. But anyway, I digress.
I'll use the door.
Yeah, we used to. Yeah, I see what you did there. But yeah, we still got plenty of jobs to do on the front of the house. We've got the guttering to do. We've still got the windows to address. So, plenty of jobs to do in the future. So stay tuned. But as usual, folks, give us a bit of the old like and
He
subscribe,
does like that.
and leave a comment or two.
Yes, please. Love reading them.
Yeah, and
See you next time.
see you next time.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.